In the fall of 2017, Cayley Mandadi was a happy cheerleader at Trinity University. But one night, everything went wrong. She went out with her boyfriend Mark and ended up in the hospital, badly hurt and unconscious. Her sudden death made everyone wonder, was it a terrible accident or something more? Welcome back to my channel, True Crime Sam. Today, we're diving into the mystery of Cayley Mandadi's tragic death. Our hearts go out to her family and friends during this difficult time. In the peaceful town of Castlewood, the end of 2017 brought a chill to the air and the promise of a new academic year. Among the bustling students at Trinity University was Cayley Mandadi, a spirited cheerleader with a bright future. Her infectious smile and warm personality made her a beloved figure on campus. On a crisp October night, Cayley decided to spend the evening with her boyfriend, Mark. What began as a typical college night, full of fun and excitement, soon took a dark and unexpected turn. By morning, the news of Cayley's tragic and untimely death would send shockwaves through the entire community. Join us as we piece together the events of that night, seeking to uncover the truth behind Cayley's heartbreaking fate. What really happened in those final hours? Let's find out together. Cayley Mandadi, 19, was a typical Texas teenager balancing school, sports, and friends. She was known for her big heart and friendly nature. Cayley's mom described her as a pleasant, trusting person who always smiled. She was a sophomore in communications at Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas. In the fall of 2017, Cayley felt she finally fit in at school. She joined a sorority and became a cheerleader, enjoying her college life. She seemed to have it all, but her world changed when her relationship with her boyfriend, Jet Burcham, ended in September 2017. Jet Burcham, Cayley's boyfriend for 9 months, was a charming but troubled young man. He had a bright smile and could make friends easily, making him seem like the perfect match for Cayley. Jet was popular at social events and always seemed confident. However, behind his charm was a darker side. Friends began to notice his strange behavior and quick mood changes. Jet's use of drugs and his bad temper worried those close to him. Despite seeming friendly, Jet had problems that affected his relationship with Cayley, leading to a sad and tragic ending. Cayley Mandadi and Jet Burcham's relationship was a central part of Cayley's college life. They were together for about 9 months, a significant amount of time for a college couple. From the outside, it might have seemed like a typical college romance, with moments of joy and connection. Cayley, known for her friendly and trusting nature, found Jet to be an important part of her life. After Cayley and Mark started dating, she spent a lot of time with his friends who were not very fond of her. They noticed some odd behavior from Mark. One night, Cayley went to a party that Mark had told her not to attend. In response, Mark got angry and trashed her dorm room, even throwing her clothes out of the window after Trinity University police responded to a noise complaint. Mark was found alone in the apartment afterward. Cayley started confiding in her close friends that she wasn't happy with Mark and wanted to break up with him, but she was scared that things might get worse if she did. However, the relationship faced challenges. By September 2017, things took a turn for the worse. The couple decided to break up, which was a major event for Cayley. Jet's side of the relationship and the reasons for the breakup are less well known, but it's clear that this personal upheaval had a significant impact on Cayley. The end of their relationship marked a difficult chapter in her life, overshadowing the happy and fulfilling college experience she had been enjoying. Hay didn't stay long because they saw Cayley's ex there and decided to leave around 3:45 p.m. Cayley was last seen at about 10:30 p.m. Later, Cayley was taken to a hospital in Luling, where she was unconscious, bruised, and only covered from the waist down. Though CPR was performed, Cayley was brain dead and taken off life support on October 31st. The question remains, did Mark beat her to death, or was it an accident? Mark was questioned by the police at the hospital. His story didn't quite add up. He said they were leaving the festival and heading back to Houston because Cayley didn't want to go to school anymore and wanted to be away from her friends and family. Mark said they had an argument about seeing her ex and stopped at a Valero station off Interstate 10 for what he called makeup sex. He mentioned they had been drinking and taking medication. Mark claimed that after having sex, he got back on the highway and saw that Cayley had stopped breathing and passed out. In a panic, he found an exit leading to a hospital and took her there. After Cayley Mandadi was flown to Kyle, Texas, unconscious, it had been a tough 2 days. Lawrence Baitland. She had CPR done on her about 7 times. Her heart would stop every time they tried to restart it. Alison Steele. I saw the loss of both my future and hers. Lawrence Baitland and Alison Steele were told that Cayley had no chance of recovering. Their once lively daughter was now brain dead. The police questioned Mark about the Valero station he mentioned, but they couldn't find any near I-10. Texas Rangers soon joined the investigation. The autopsy report showed that Cayley had died from blunt trauma. 2 years after Cayley's tragic death in December 2019, Mark Houghton finally faced trial. Prosecutors claimed that Mark physically dragged Cayley from the Malaluna Music Festival to his car. They said he took her to a parking area where he beat and sexually attacked her, causing a fatal brain injury. Defense attorney John Hunter argued that things might not be as they seem and that Mark didn't cause Cayley's death. In court, I tried not to look at Mark too much. The trial began with prosecutor Alexandra Crenshaw's opening statement. She suggested starting the story with what happened in Mark's car, where Cayley's life ended. No one saw what happened between Cayley and Mark that evening. Paramedic Cheryl Lane described a black car pulling up behind her, with a man screaming for help. When Lane opened the door, she saw Cayley inside, naked and bruised, with her clothes scattered around. The treating doctor at Ling Hospital initially thought Cayley had overdosed because of Mark's claim, but her symptoms didn't match that diagnosis. There was a lot of bruising, and doctors worked hard to save her, performing CPR 6 or 8 times. The police tried to piece together what happened. Officer Chris Adams noticed that Mark's hands were unusually red, and detectives suspected that Mark might have hit Cayley, as his hands seemed to have scabs. Cayley Mandadi's friends described Mark Houghton, who was arrested after her death, as a very strong and intimidating man. He was known to use steroids. When Houghton first cooperated with police, he allowed them to search his Mercedes, where they found a gun and marijuana. Given his strength and the small space inside the car, it would have been easy for him to inflict severe injuries on Cayley. If he had been worried about himself, he could have asked the police for a warrant instead. According to Houghton's defense lawyer, John Hunter, Houghton was more concerned about Cayley Than himself. However, the only person who could have disputed Houghton's account was Cayley, and she could no longer speak for herself. The investigators hoped her remains would provide answers. Dr. Susanna Dana performed the autopsy and found that Cayley had been beaten to death. She had multiple blunt force injuries to her face and head, including bruises. During cross-examination, Hunter got Dr. Dana to admit that at least one of Cayley's injuries might have been caused by medical treatment. This highlights that CPR can sometimes cause injuries beyond just superficial ones. Dr. Dana determined the cause of death was blunt force trauma, but the manner of death was homicide, which Hunter disputed. The jury would soon learn more about Cayley's troubled relationship with Mark Houghton. In the last hours of her life, her friends gathered to say goodbye. Taylor Clement, a childhood friend, met her college friends who had never met before but were now coming together for Cayley. Among those friends, Morgan Sampson, Cayley's roommate, described a troubling incident. Mark had become enraged when Cayley invited him to a party. During an argument on the balcony, he threw her against a brick wall. Cayley had attended the party despite Mark's demands, and neighbours reported hearing loud banging from her room. Officer Roderick Lewis of the campus police responded to a noise complaint and found Mark leaving the room. He asked Mark to step outside while he checked inside. When Officer Lewis entered, he found the glass door to the balcony broken and Cayley's clothes scattered outside. A friend claimed that Mark had also smashed Cayley's laptop on the street. Cayley had been torn between her ex-boyfriend Jet Burham and Mark. She wanted to end things with Mark, but was unsure how to proceed. Jet told the jury that everything came to a head during the music festival. Cayley had planned to break up with Mark there, hoping the presence of many witnesses would help. Mark had picked up Cayley to go to the festival, but they stopped at a car wash to take MDMA. According to Mark, they took more MDMA at the event. When Cayley did not show up, her friends tried to contact her. Mark answered the phone and said she couldn't speak before hanging up. Jetburum saw Mark and Cayley leaving the festival, with Cayley seemingly trying to pull away. Mark had his arm around her shoulder, pulling her closer as they walked away. During cross-examination by defense attorney John Hunter, Jet's testimony showed that Cayley was being taken against her will. Jet admitted to exaggerating some details, but said he was worried about Cayley's safety and wanted to urge the police to find her. Hunter questioned Jet's credibility, pointing out inconsistencies in his statements and his past drug charge. Despite having a lawyer, the repeated statements made by Mark Houghton had a significant impact. Hunter's key witness, Dr. William Anderson, a forensic pathologist, reviewed Cayley's autopsy and suggested that some bruises were due to resuscitation and organ donation. Anderson argued that a faint line on Cayley's skull indicated a fall, not a violent attack. The prosecutors challenged Dr. Anderson's claims, pointing out that his evidence contradicted the findings of the original medical examiner. After 10 hours of deliberation, the jury declared a mistrial, unable to reach a verdict. The outcome was disappointing for everyone involved. Prosecutors David Lunan and Alessandra Cranshaw felt let down and planned to retry the case. The defense's key witness, Dr. Anderson, faced criticism, and the prosecution sought to address his claims. Despite the trial, Cayley's mother, Alison Steele, and stepfather, Lawrence Baitland, believed more information was needed about what happened inside Mark Houghton's car. After Cayley Mandadi's tragic death, her parents launched their own investigation and developed a theory about the events leading up to it. They created a 3D model of Cayley's head and tracked down Houghton's car to recreate the crime scene. To build an accurate model of Cayley's head, they started with a 3D mesh and projected images onto it, which gave them the confidence to pursue Houghton's vehicle further. Mark Houghton had sold the car in 2018 to Lawrence, who managed to track down the new owner and purchase it. Lawrence asked about the car, which was unlike anything he had heard of before. Lawrence recalls that Cayley was severely injured while sitting in her parents' driveway. The experience was haunting for him, but he felt it was essential to guide them to the car. He believed that Mark had struck Cayley, causing her head to hit the car's knob. The knob did not fully retract, no matter how hard it was hit. To illustrate their theory in court, Cayley's parents made a video using 2 actors, one male and one female, who were of similar size and weight. They wanted to avoid any bias by not conducting the reconstruction themselves. So they hired a private investigator to create the presentation, although they did not review it before testifying. The video offered 3 perspectives on the beliefs of Cayley's parents and experts, potentially helping the prosecution's case if shown to the jurors. The visual presentation aimed to clarify what happened and address questions from the first trial. John Hunter questioned the origin of a mark on Cayley's head, noting that it could have been caused by something at the hospital. He speculated about various possibilities, though his suggestions were considered unscientific and not based on law enforcement expertise. In response to her daughter's death, Cayley Mandadi helped pass the Texas Clear Alert law, which enables law enforcement to quickly initiate searches for missing people aged 18 to 64. In Texas, a district judge denied John Hunter's request to dismiss the case. Hunter had argued that there was no evidence of prosecutorial misconduct related to Jet Burcham's testimony, expressing frustration over the prolonged wait for a resolution. He appealed to the United States Supreme Court, but the court declined to hear the case. A second trial was set for May 23rd, more than 5 years after Cayley's death. In 2023, emotions were running high. The stakes were significant for Cayley's parents. The case continued to reveal new evidence, with Mark Houghton facing trial again for Cayley Mandadi's murder. Over the 5 years since her death, Houghton had been active on social media, making statements like, "Come at me legally, I'll beat you," showing little remorse. A significant portion of the public believed he was guilty. If found guilty, Houghton's conviction could impact many. He boasted about overcoming the state of Texas in court. His lawyers, John Hunter and Haley Pease, argued that Houghton used social media as a coping mechanism after being falsely accused. During the first trial, the jury had only considered felony murder charges. This time, additional charges like aggravated assault and criminally negligent homicide were added. Cayley's parents' video was also being reconsidered. Initially, there had been concerns about the video's impact, especially regarding Hunter's cross-examination, but the judge decided to allow it. If the parents testified, they would be barred from participating in the trial. After consulting with the parents, the prosecution decided to remove the video exhibit on May 23rd. The second trial proceeded without television cameras. Alexandra Crenshaw's opening statement remained similar, emphasizing that the best way to understand the case was to start with where Cayley's life ended, in the car with the defendant. However, the witness list had changed significantly, with Jet Burcham no longer included. The prosecution added an expert on domestic violence, who described Houghton as a textbook abuser who isolated and manipulated Cayley, eventually leading to her fatal injury. Hunter contended that Houghton was unaware of the danger Cayley was in and aimed to show that the appearance of her injuries at the hospital and autopsy did not necessarily indicate abuse. The case heavily relied on a pharmacologist's testimony about high levels of MDMA. One key witness was absent. The previous medical examiner's testimony about organ donation and a suspected skull fracture had hurt the prosecution in the first trial. William Anderson's claims were challenged by a new, respected medical examiner. Anderson's prior assertions about a skull fracture were criticized as irresponsible. The defense's decision to exclude Dr. Anderson led to a reaction from the courtroom audience. In the end, Mark Houghton's fate was decided by a new jury. Cayley's parents awaited the outcome of this crucial trial. John Hunter had worked tirelessly for nearly 6 years to keep Houghton free. When the jury returned with a verdict of not guilty for the murder charge, Hunter felt a deep sense of disappointment. Despite this, there was relief when Houghton was convicted of aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury. Everyone expressed relief that he would be going to prison. Houghton was sentenced to a maximum of 20 years, which was a significant relief for Cayley's family, even though they still viewed him as a monster. Cayley's friend Taylor still felt the loss deeply, saying, "I miss my best friend." Lawrence and Allison had no regrets about their efforts, including spending time and money on the video, even though the jury never saw it. Allison found it hard to watch the video, as it was likely the blow that caused Cayley's death. Despite the ongoing pain, Cayley's mother remained dedicated to advocating for other victims of violence, holding on to the hope that something positive could come from her daughter's tragic death. As we wrap up this heartbreaking case, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to True Crime Sam for more in-depth coverage of chilling true crime stories. Don't forget to click the notification bell to stay updated on our latest investigations. Let's remain vigilant and aware. Sometimes danger can be lurking right in front of us. Our thoughts are with Cayley and her family during this difficult time.